Hi, everyone. This is your host, Kristen Howe, and I am so excited to welcome you to our call with today's guest, David Breslow. David is an author and speaker who's appeared on over 150 radio and television stations and worked with diverse clients from professionals in business, sports, entertainment, and the private sector. David has been called Mr. Simple because he has helped people to quickly and consistently transform what they think, feel, and do to move past old limiting patterns in a way they never thought could be so simple. David believes there is a better way to get what you want and that you are closer to it than you may realize. And on today's call with David, you will discover the one simple truth that will help you begin change today. You'll find out how to blow past fear immediately. You'll also find out why coping leads to mediocrity in life and what to do about it and why it doesn't help you. You'll find out why the outcomes you get or don't get in your life are governed by law. And we'll actually do an interactive exercise that will shock you and show you why change is difficult so you can stop wasting time, money, and energy. So, David, I can't wait to get into this. I just love your energy and your approach to everything. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the call.
Well, thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Always.
It's so great. I love your whole simple approach to things because I think that's something that is very much needed in the world today. So can you share with us a couple of minutes of, how you got here? What are some of the major turning points and what made you get to the point of realizing, wow, this is so much simpler than we all realize?
Yes. As with most people in the personal development arena, it came through a painful process. And of all places, for me, it came through sports because I was a competitive tennis player and hockey player when I was younger. And tennis specifically was very, very frustrating for me. I was one of those players that looked really good. If you just watch me in practice, you go, wow, this guy's really good. But when I played in competition and tournaments, I was another guy. I was horrible. I was afraid, had no confidence. I played out of weakness. So I had so much frustration that one day I had lost a match in a big tournament in the first round to another player who wasn't nearly as physically talented as I was. And I was so upset that I ran out to the parking lot, started banging the roof of my car with my racket because I was so angry. And I started screaming out loud, why do I do this? Why do I do this? Why do I keep putting myself in this position to suffer so much? And all of a sudden I heard this little voice inside my head that said, why don't you go back to what you knew when you were a boy, when you were younger? And I stopped and I started to think, what is that? And I realized that when I was younger, 7, 8, 9 years old, I had this awareness, this mind-body awareness, that an understanding of the mind-body relationship. Now, I didn't understand them as laws at that time that I'm teaching now, but I understood that there was this mind-body relationship that if I went back to that, I would probably be able to help myself, which is what the voice was telling me. So I went home and I started going back and I realized, yes, there were these mind-body realities that I understood when I was much younger. And in the meantime, as I got older, I started to defer to these so-called experts. I read all the books. I talked to the sports psychologists. I talked to other players who were very successful. And they would all tell me the same kinds of things, these very generic, you got to be more positive. You got to believe in yourself. You just got to be more focused. All these things that we all hear. And I tried all that stuff, and it wasn't really helpful. It was helpful sporadically is what it was. And then I went back to these mind-body realities that I knew as a kid, and that's when I started formulating what is now called the Wired to Win program. And it's based on 7 laws by which all human beings produce outcomes. So it all started for me out of my frustration as a tennis player. And once I started doing this, I realized that my clients came from all walks of life. As I started with sports, of course, because that was my circle. And then these people would say to me, hey, can I use these laws at work or at home or in my relationship? And I started to think, well, of course you can. Laws are laws. They don't just occur in a tennis court, and they don't just occur in a boardroom, and they don't just occur on the first hole of a golf course. And I realized that it's like anybody I spoke to was starting to see changes in several different areas of their lives, even though we never spoke about them, because laws are laws. That's like saying that gravity only occurs on the second floor of your house and not on the basement. That's not possible. It's a law. It occurs everywhere. That's why I enjoy talking about the law so much. This conversation is very, very interesting. But that's where it started for me. Out of all things, I never would have guessed sports.
I love that. It makes so much sense. And by the way, I love that you just said laws are laws. It's not like gravity only works on the second floor of your house. What a great way to look at it. Even there, we're seeing sort of the simple way that you look at it that makes it so crystal clear. So that's great. By the way, everyone listening, I highly recommend, whether you're at your computer or sitting at a desk, obviously if you're driving, don't do this, but if you have a pen and paper handy for this, because when we do our interactive exercise with David, you're going to want to have that handy. I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Okay, so let's talk about this. The first thing I want to know, we said that we're going to discover the one simple truth that will help everyone listening begin change today. So what is that truth?
Yeah. Well, actually, there are two, if I may throw another one in there. I'll give you the second truth first. And that second truth is more information does not equal more success. This is one of the fallacies that kind of society has maybe, I'll use the word brainwashed us into believing, which is why so many of us go from program to program to program, workshop to workshop to workshop, CD to CD to CD, in the hopes that the tips and strategies that we get will help us get what we want. Now, the reality is that if you look at people's lives and you ask them, okay, how long have you been working on this particular issue? Let's say it's confidence. And they'll say, well, a few years. I've gone here, I've gone there. I watched Dr. Phil, I watched Oprah, I got these books, I got all this stuff. And yet, I don't really have what I really, really want. Well, the fallacy is that the information and the tips and the strategies are going to be the catalyst for the change. And if you look back at your own experience, you'll see that you may have experienced some change, but it's very sporadic and usually very temporary because tips and strategies go away. So more information does not equal more success. And it's one of those very simple truths, in my opinion, because there's no shortage of information on this planet, is there? None. We can find information on everything. So if information was really the cause for your success, more people would be getting what they want in life. So clearly, that's not the cause for success. And that leads to the main truth that I tell everybody: nothing changes until you do. And now what that really means is all the information, the tips and strategies and theories and concepts we all get are fine. But the truth is, they're not going to be the catalyst for the change. And like I mentioned before, look at your own experience and you'll see that that's true. And that's true because nothing in your life really changes until you, the individual, does. Which is why I like talking about the laws so much, because when you learn the laws, you, the individual, begin to change. You're not changing because of a tip or strategy. You're not changing because of a new theory or concept. And the reason those are so sporadic is because you don't own them. You borrowed them. I suggested, hey, next time you go home, do this. And you do it, and it lasts for a little while, and then you stop. And you stop because you don't own it. Nothing changes until you do. So when you, the individual, change, everything else in your life starts to change. And it's pretty amazing to see how widespread that is. But most people are not told this. Most people are told, hey, get this tip, get this strategy. Here's the 7 ways to be happy. Here's the 3 ways to be a great leader. Here's the 19 ways to be a stable person, or whatever it is. And there's all this stuff out there that you have to try to remember. Let's see, which strategy do I use now, and which one worked last week, and how come it doesn't work today? And that happens all the time. So they come and they go. So instead of having those things come and go, why don't you, the individual, start to change? Because when you do, everything else you do gets better. So that's the number one truth that I like to tell everybody right off the bat. Nothing changes until you do. And it actually relieves the pressure, because now you don't have to run around being a glutton for information and have notebooks full of stuff on your shelf that's just collecting dust for the most part for so many of us, that you don't have to feel that pressure of, I got to get this, I got to get that, I got to get this, I got to find out this information, I got to write down this, and it's a lot of stuff. Nothing changes until you do. All of a sudden clears everything up. You can go, oh, I have to change. I need to be the change that I'm looking for. What was it, Gandhi, I think, that said that so many years ago? Be the change that you're looking for. That's what he meant, in my opinion. Nothing changes until you do. Why don't you do that first and then watch what happens? Your whole world will explode differently in the way that you want it to. It's really pretty exciting when that happens.
Yeah, and that completely makes sense. Now, here's the thing, because, it's sort of my job to be the voice of everyone listening. So for the people that are listening, and this is, by the way, a fantastic group of people, but, I just want to make sure I get any of their questions answered. For anyone listening that's thinking, okay, well, yes, David, I would love to be the change that I want to see, and I get that, but I am so terrified of everything. I mean, I think fear is such a prevalent thing right now. What do I do about that? What do I do about fear? Because I know you say we're able to blow past fear immediately, and that seems almost impossible to some people. So talk to us about fear, because I think that'll be really helpful.
Okay. I have an interesting take on fear. For example, I'll be talking to a person, and I'll say, well, what is it that you fear? Oh, I fear making mistakes. I fear having things not work out, things like that. And I'll say, well, haven't you been making mistakes for 10 years now at least? Or haven't things not been working out for you for a long time? Yes. Okay. So my question is, then where is the fear? And they kind of look at me and go, well, what do you mean? Because the reality is we don't fear things that we're comfortable with. We don't fear things that we're good at. So I'll say to this person, you're really good at making things not work out for you. You're really good at having this scenario happen time and time and time again in your world. And then they look at me. I can see that deer in headlights look, or I can hear it on the phone. And I'm doing this on purpose because part of my job is to slap people's consciousness. Literally, it's like, hello, wake up. You're into this mindset of you have this fear, and everybody's telling you what fear is, and all these cute little acronyms, false evidence appearing real. It's one of the common ones. And they're all great. I'm not making fun of them. They're cute. They're great. They're easy to remember, and they're a reminder, and it's great. But I like to take things back a step or two, because that's where the simplicity is. The simplicity in this is, look, you're fearing something that you're really good at. Why would you fear something you're so good at? In fact, you're so good at it, you've mastered this. You're so good at messing up in your life and creating a mess. Why would you be afraid of it? And then they start to realize from that perspective, oh, why would I be afraid of it? I am really good at it. I've been doing this for a long time. So I first like to get people to kind of help them switch their attitude about fear, their point of view. And then as soon as they do that, here's what I'm going to ask people on the phone to do now. Here's a great way to move past fear. Very simple. Next time you're feeling any kind of fear of anything, any feeling in the pit of your stomach, any feeling of fear whatsoever or doubt, ask yourself this question. What is the opportunity I'm most excited about right now? What is the opportunity I'm most excited about right now? Now, fear happens when we're excited about something. When I was on the tennis court and I was about to win against the person I'd never beaten before, I had a whole bunch of fear. And then I would check in and say, well, wait a minute. What am I excited about right now? Because most of the time when we feel fear, we're feeling it because there's a moment there that we're excited about. But instead of focusing on that, we focus on how weird we feel, how uncomfortable we feel. And our mind goes off in that direction. And most people on this call who have any relationship to the mind-body experience and have read books and so on and so forth, you know that where you focus is going to create what your experience, especially on the inside. And if you're going to focus on the fear, of course you're going to experience doubt and uncertainty and discomfort and all those things that go along with it. The body's just doing what it's supposed to do. And by the way, that's by law. That's going to happen. It's not my opinion. By law, what you focus on is going to create the experience. That's not a theory. That's by law. That's happening. That's actually law number 3 in the series of 7 that I talk about. So if you're going to focus on the fear, you cannot be surprised when you start feeling all that negative, ugly stuff. So this question, what's the opportunity I'm most excited about right now? Oh, you know what? I'm excited about breaking a barrier here in my tennis. I'm excited about beating this guy I've lost to the last 10 times I played. That's what I'm excited about. And as soon as I ask that question, my mind is now going off on a completely new track that's taking me to feel, think, and do things at a much higher plane, simply by asking that question. Not trying to find cute ways to get rid of the fear, not trying to find 7 strategies to remove the fear from me. That's taking it in the wrong direction, in my opinion. Take it in the simple direction. And the simple direction is ask a better question. Because when most people feel fear, what kind of questions are they asking? Oh, why do I feel this way? Oh, what's wrong with me? Oh, this fear is really getting in my way. How can I get rid of it? Those aren't the best questions because there's no real good answers to those. There's a very good answer to what is the opportunity I'm excited most about right now? There's an answer to that question, and your mind will tell it to you without any problem whatsoever. So if you're having fear of starting a new business, if you're having fear of admitting something to yourself, if you're having fear of being honest with yourself, if you're having fear of being honest in a relationship and communicating, I'm a big fan of truth and laws. And truth is simple. And it's just as simple as if you're uncomfortable, for example, in a relationship of being honest, this used to happen to me a lot. I started to realize once I started doing this work and teaching these things that I applied in my own life as well, I realized, you know what, all I have to do is be honest. So I would come up to this person and I'd say, you know what, there's something I need to say and I'm really uncomfortable with this. It's going to come out really messy probably. I'm going to stutter and I'm going to stammer. And I'm just sitting there being as honest as I can be. And every time I've done that, the person I'm talking to is right there with me, because they know I'm being honest. Instead of me kind of walking in the room acting like big ego and, you know, Mr. Know-It-All, I'm like, hey, I got to have this conversation with you, and acting like it's not a problem. That doesn't work. People respond to truth. At least most people I know do. And if you're really honest, I'm honest. I'm uncomfortable. This is really going to be hard for me. And the person looks at you and goes, okay. And then you start talking. And I do everything I said I was going to do. I babble and I stutter. I'm vulnerable and it's a little weird. But that's what I said was going to happen because that's being truthful. So being truthful can get rid of a lot of fear as well. But if you just check in and ask this question, what am I most excited about? Which I would do before those conversations. And what I'd be excited about for me was things like, hey, I get to express myself and I get to be honest with somebody and I get to raise the level of this relationship and have a really great conversation where I haven't in the past. Those are all things that we get excited about. Even simply something is asking somebody out in a bar. Okay, it's an example I use a lot where you see somebody across the room in a bar and, you know, a lot of guys are uncomfortable doing that kind of thing. And you walk over and what's the thing you're most excited about? Before you go over, ask yourself, check in. Well, I'm excited about the fact that I can break a barrier here because I usually don't go do this, and I'll feel really good that I was able to break a barrier, and I'm excited about the opportunity that maybe he or she will say yes. You know, yeah, I'm excited about that. And all of a sudden you're on a completely different mental track, and then you walk over and you do it. And everything is different about you. You're thinking, feeling, and doing things differently because you took your mind off on another track where fear would have taken you somewhere else. You would have just sat there and went, way out of my league. You come up with all these rationalizations because the mind has to do that to make us feel good, when what you really wanted to do was get up and walk over there. Well, life's too short to not do stuff like this. We don't need to hurt ourselves, do we?
Absolutely not. Okay, so let me ask you this, because I can completely see how that applies to, like you said, asking someone out or being in the tennis match, you know, all of that. So what happens if someone is fearful of losing their house or, you know, those kinds of fears, those survival fears? How do we use the opportunity question, which I love that question, by the way. Can you give us some answers of maybe what we might see as the opportunity in there? Because sometimes that's where I think people struggle.
Yeah, in that example, there is an opportunity. If you're fearful of losing your home or losing money, losing anything like that in life that we all want and things that are important, there's an opportunity there for you to see a new possibility. So in the house example, If you're afraid of losing your house because you're not paying the mortgage, for example, maybe you're out of work or the work is slow and you're not earning and bringing in as much money as you did 6 months ago, and you're afraid of losing the house, you ask this question: what's the opportunity I'm most excited about right now when it comes to losing my house? And you sit with that for a second and don't try to answer it. That's the secret. Don't try to answer it, because our minds want to kick in because the mind likes to control things. It thinks it needs to come up with the answer. You don't. Sit with that question for a moment, especially the more intense the life issue we're talking about. Sit with that question for a moment and let the answer come to your mind. Because what we do as human beings, we try to control the answer. We think we have to figure it out. We don't. If you just sit with the question and still yourself for a little bit, what will happen is all sorts of possibilities will start floating around your mind. So yes, this does require a bit of being still. We need to still our minds a bit in this kind of a scenario because it's more intense. We do need to still our mind a bit. And then things can come to you like, oh, here's an opportunity I didn't think about before to earn some more money. Or here's a way that I can now use to help me keep my house 6 months longer. Maybe it's something you can do with the bank. Maybe it's something to do with your finances. But whatever it is, when you ask the question, there is something you can be excited about because it's pushing you in a place to do, think, feel, and do something differently than you would normally do when you're comfortable and complacent and not having to look at this. Because there is something exciting out there, whether it's a new job, whether it's an additional job, whether it's a new way to get a job, whether it's a new attitude as you interview for jobs. It could be all sorts of things that can open up new possibilities, where when you get stuck in the fear of losing your home, most people know where that takes them, and that's not a good place because you're always stuck in feeling that kind of negative emotion and this kind of very closed-eyed view of what's possible. It gets very myopic, it gets very narrow, and you can't see anything else. So what this question does is help your mind open up and see what else is possible for you. That's probably the biggest thing that it does. So even in an important scenario like a home, losing a home, or losing money, or losing a relationship, or losing a vehicle, or losing anything, even in that, believe it or not, there's an opportunity to be excited about something because you get to change. You get to see something different. You get to try something different. You get to be somebody different. I don't know what's more exciting than that.
That's amazing. I love that you just said because you get to change. You know, inherently they get so scared of change, but that is such an exciting thing. You get to change. You get to be more of the, amazing thing that you are. And that's incredible. And I think you're right. So many people get sort of stuck in coping with, okay, I'm going to cope with my fear. I'm going to cope with my life. So talk to me about coping, because you say that is actually something that leads to mediocrity. We don't want mediocre. So tell me about that.
My favorite, unfavorite word. Okay. So coping does lead to mediocrity, and I tell people all the time, do not call me if you want me to help you cope better with your world. I will never help you be a better coper, ever. And here's why. Because in my work, I prove everything I say. The laws are provable, they're undeniable, and that's one of the best parts about it for me, is nobody has to believe me. I don't want you to believe me because you think I'm some kind of a guru or smart guy or anything like that. Who cares? That doesn't help you change. You got to own this. What helps you really change is when you own what you're getting. And so coping strategies take the form of, again, tips and theories and concepts and so on and so forth. Here's the reason I will never help you be a better coper. Open up your dictionary, look at the word cope, and here are the synonyms you will find for the word cope. And I hope folks will write this down so they can see it on paper. To deal with, to handle, to get by, to manage, to struggle with, and my all-time favorite, to survive. Okay? To deal with, to handle, to get by, to manage, struggle with, and survive. That's what coping really means. So when you gather a bunch of coping skills, that's what you're doing. You're basically learning how to handle something, how to get by, how to manage, how to survive it, whatever. And I ask people, do you aspire to do any one of those 6 things I just mentioned? And they all go, no. I go, well, that's what you're doing. When you look for coping skills in the form of tips and strategies and blah, 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 that's exactly what you're doing. All you're doing is learning how to get by something. So here's the real problem with that, in my opinion. If you really look at what that was going on there, you're basically sending a message into your system. And that message is basically this. I'm a big fan of cartoons. I add voices to body parts and all that. If your body could speak, it would be saying this. Well, next time this happens, and of course it's going to happen again because I can't help it. Next time this thing happens in my life, I have to arm myself with a whole bunch of weapons so that I can deal with it better. So I'd better go out and get some coping skills because I know this thing is going to happen again. I'm certain of it. So when it does, I better be ready. That's what your body's saying. That's the message you're sending into your system. Now, that message is not very strong, is it? You have basically resigned and already pretty much admitted that whatever this thing you're trying to cope with is, these feelings or the mindset or whatever it is going to happen again. So therefore, since it's already going to happen again, you better arm yourself with a whole bunch of weapons to deal with it. That's the message you're sending. That's not a very powerful message. Now, in the personal development field, I'm well known for this particular question, which relates to what I'm talking about now. And it's a question I ask everybody I speak to when we first meet, as they tell me their story and download all their problems and issues and blah, blah, blah. I'll just look at them, or on the phone, I'll just say to them, okay, here's the question. Regardless of all that smoke and mirrors you just told me about, all those clouds and all that stuff, all those fires, I have one question. Are you more interested in learning tips and strategies and coping mechanisms to help you deal with that stuff you just told me about? Or are you more interested in creating something new starting tomorrow? Every time I ask that question, there's a moment of silence, face to face or on the phone. And I can hear their minds grinding, kind of going, what? Did he ask me? And I sit there and I go, yeah, I did ask you that. It's a very simple question. Do you want more ways to deal with the junk you just told me about? Or do you want to create something new starting tomorrow? It's very simple. Which one do you want? And eventually they'll go, yeah, I think I want to create something new. I say, okay, good. Then I'm your guy. If you told me you wanted ways to deal with the stuff you just threw at me, I would send you away. Go back to your life coach, go back to your counselor, go back to your therapist, go back to the library. They got 1 million books that'll give you tips and strategies so you can cope with all the stuff you just told me. And usually the response is, well, I did that already. And I say, I know. So why would you call me and want to do the same thing you already know hasn't worked for you? Do you really expect me to do the same thing? Is that what you want? You want me to give you the 7 ways to be happy and the 3 ways to be a better husband or wife? Is that what you want? No, I did that already. Well, good. Because I'm not going to give you a single tip or strategy in this Wired to Win program. And people are shocked by that. I'm not going to give a single tip or strategy? No. We already know they don't last. Why would you want that again from me? I won't do it. I already know that the laws are enough because they change you back to that number 1 truth. Nothing changes until you do. So that's why I will never help somebody be a coper and why I say that coping leads to mediocrity. It's pretty lame. And besides, when you walk in a room, somebody's standing there. You walk up to them and you say, how you doing? They never turn to you with a flash a big smile and look at you and go, hey, I'm great, I'm coping. They don't do that. Not with a big smile like that. No, what they'll say is, yeah, I'm okay. You know, I'm getting by. And, you know, another day, another dollar, you know, same stuff, new day. And that's the way they talk. Nobody ever flashes a big smile and says, I'm great, I'm coping. No, they don't. So coping is really not the way, in my opinion. Why would you want to cope if all you're doing is dealing with stuff? Who wants to deal with stuff? Who wants to just get by? That's not what your life is about. There's so much more out there for you, or in there, I should say. There's so much more that you can experience, and you can't do that while you're busy coping. The two don't go together. You either want to cope with the garbage that's going on in your life right now, or you want to create something new. If you want to create something new, I'm the guy that's interested in talking to you. If you tell me you want to get by and cope better, not interested. Not interested at all. Does that make sense to you as why I wouldn't be interested?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it makes me go, well, my God, I'm not even interested in coping. Like that word just is not even interesting to me at all anymore.
Good.
So, yeah, I love that. Okay, so you've already explained, and you explained this early, which I appreciate, that the outcomes we get, they're based on law. They are actually governed by law. So that's fantastic. What are some of the ways that we can make change happen quickly and consistently instead of, here we are, we're talking about you get an opportunity to be different. But how can we do this without hoping to be different? Does that make sense?
Yes. Do you want me to go into the circle exercise here?
Ooh, yes, I do.
Which would kind of help people see why change is difficult from the beginning?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. And then I can go into the laws a little bit and explain what that is and why it works.
Okay.
So here's where I'm going to ask folks on the line to, if you haven't done so already, grab your pen and paper. On a blank sheet of paper, just draw a horizontal line across the center from left to right, dividing the paper in half. And on the top half, draw a circle that fills in the space there. So it could be a pretty large circle. And on the bottom half, draw another circle. So now you have a circle on the top of the page and the bottom of the page. So here's how this is going to work. On the top circle, we'll call that circle number 1. And that circle, you can list 1 to 3 things that are currently limiting you. For example, fear, lack of confidence, not enough money, things like that, procrastination, things in your life right now that you feel limit you from getting what you want. That's what circle 1 is. Your circle 1 is the obstacles to getting what you want. So you can list 1 to 3 things in there. That's all you need to do. So let's say you have 1 or 2 things in there now. Then go down to the bottom of the page, circle 2. Circle 2 we will label as what I want. So in circle 2, list 1 to 3 things that you want and be specific. I want to earn $120,000 a year. Don't just say more money. Say $120,000 if that's what you want. Want to follow through every day. Be specific. Don't just say follow through more. Say follow through every day. Or be specific on confidence. Want to be a more confident athlete. Want to be more confident on the job. Want to be more confident in my relationships. Whatever. Just be as specific as you can within the thing that you're putting in that circle. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you doing this too?
Of course I am.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you were writing, which is good. I'm glad you're doing it. That's great.
Of course I'm doing it.
So here's what we have now. We have 2 circles, 1 up and 1 down. Here's what I'd like you to notice. Here's the real crux of this now. Notice that those 2 circles do not touch each other. There is no bridge. They don't relate to each other whatsoever. There are 2 separate entities. Now, here's the biggest mistake most of us human beings make. Our logical mind looks at the stuff in circle 1 and says, oh, this stuff, confidence. I'm just going to pick 1. Lack of confidence. Oh, since I lack confidence, I should try to fix that. So I'm going to go to seminars and I'm going to buy books and I'm going to get CD packages and I'm going to watch Dr. Phil and whatever we do. I'm going to strengthen that for myself. Here's the problem with that. It seems to be logical and seems to make sense, but when you look at it closely, it really doesn't. Because here's what happens. When you try to fix, quote unquote, the things in circle 1, basically what happens is all you're doing is moving closer maybe to the edge of circle 1, the circle. Maybe you're moving a little bit closer to the edge. Things change a little bit. You get sporadic changes. You get temporary changes. It kind of comes and goes. And then you look for more. And that's back to that information thing. You look for more stuff. oh, this is a new theory. I like this one. Maybe I'll try this one now. And this is what we do. We get on this Ferris wheel of jumping around from new flavor to new flavor to new flavor. But look at the graphic you have in front of you. Circle 2 is still sitting over there untouched. Because the truth of it is, the junk in Circle 1 will never get you into Circle 2. That's the bottom line I want people to see. You can spend all the time and energy and money you want in Circle 1, and Circle 2 will still be sitting over there waiting for you to jump into it. Now, I used to do my own teleseminars for 90 minutes, and I did this every single time. It was the one thing people remembered the most. When I was done with the seminar, I used to get emails in the subject line that would say, help, prisoner in Circle 1, help, get me out of Circle 1, want to get in. And I would sit there and laugh as I saw these things pop up because people would get it. You know, they would say to me, you know, I've heard about this and I've read about it in books and I understood it intellectually, but then when you had us draw it out, I see that if I spend all my time trying to fix the junk in Circle 1, I can see it now. I will never get into Circle 2, and that's the way it's been in my life. I've been working on these things for 20 years, one guru after another, and yet I still don't have the life experience that I want. My life isn't going the way I want it to. That's in Circle 2. And now I see graphically, right in front of my own two eyes, I can see why I'm not in Circle 2. It's because I'm hanging out in Circle 1. And the two circles don't meet, and they never will meet. So Albert Einstein, you know that guy, he came up with a quote that I thought describes this perfectly. And if folks want to write this down, you're more than welcome to. That quote was, you cannot solve a problem using the same mind that created the problem in the first place. You cannot solve a problem using the same mind that created the problem in the first place. Now, guess what Circle 1 is? It's your old mind. Circle 1 only knows what you know. It only knows what you know from experience, your old attitudes, your beliefs, your limitations, your fears, your doubts. All that junk, I'll call it junk, all that junk is sitting in Circle 1. So you're trying to have something new happen in your life. You're trying to create a new life. Guess what? There's nothing in Circle 1 that's going to help you do that because it doesn't have room for new possibilities. They don't exist there. Guess where they exist? Circle 2 is nothing but new opportunities, new possibilities, because all that junk that exists in Circle 1, all the limiting stuff, doesn't exist in Circle 2. It's just not there. So it has none of that stuff to work with, which is why I ask that question of people. Do you want to spend your time and money with me dealing with Circle 1 junk and coping with it better? Or do you want to create something new starting tomorrow? What I'm really saying is Circle 2. Now you can see that. So when we do the Wired to Win program, you're moving into Circle 2 from day one, from audio 1. You are already living in Circle 2. Why? Wow. Because I don't need to spend time with people in Circle 1. This is one of the odd things about me. When people call and they start downloading all their stuff to me, oh, I'm not good at this, I got this problem, I got that problem, I give them a few minutes, and then I stop. And I say, okay, I got it. And they go, wait, I didn't finish telling you. I said, well, yeah, you did. I don't need to hear anymore. You don't need to hear my story to help me? And I go, no, I don't. Well, everybody else does. I said, I know, because they're coming from a different model. Here's the reality. I stopped you because you don't know the laws yet. I do. And if we work together, in about 2 weeks, you're going to thank me for shutting you up. And then they start laughing. They go, really? I go, yeah, because you don't understand the law. The reality is, the more you repeat the horrible story you keep telling me, the more you're doomed to repeat the experience in your life. I already know that. So I'm shutting you up to save you the trouble of having this experience again. You've been having it for the last 10 years. I get it. Besides, you're telling me the same story 10 different ways, and they don't realize it. I got it the first 30 seconds you told me. The bottom line is you're suffering, right? I actually had this conversation with a professional golfer who was shocked that I stopped him because he had seen 3 or 4 of the world famous sports psychologists out there for golf. And then he called me because he knew I didn't do what they do, and I don't. He knew I was different. And he starts telling me his story. Oh, and then 6 years ago, and all this went on, and I lost my home, I lost my PGA card, I lost my family, I lost this, I lost that. And I thought, okay. And then I stopped him. And he said the same thing. What? You don't need to hear my whole story to help me? No, I got it. The bottom line is you're suffering, right? He goes, yeah. And so, do you think your suffering is any different than anybody else's on the planet? Just because you're a pro golfer? You think you suffer differently? I never thought of it before. Well, think about it. Suffering is suffering. Human beings pretty much suffer the same way. It hurts. It sucks. It doesn't feel good. He goes, yeah, that's right. I said, and by the way, I'll prove to you why I just shut you up. I got 2 questions for you. How long you been telling the story? He goes, oh, about 6 years. I said, okay. How long you not been playing well? He starts laughing. He goes, yeah, okay, about 6 years. I said, yeah, and you've been telling the story to anybody who will listen, haven't you? So here's your first assignment, even though we've never met yet. And he called me from the East Coast. He was all depressed when he called because he just lost another tournament and a whole bit. I said, yeah, you've been telling the story to anybody who's willing to listen. So here's your first assignment. Even though I don't know if I want to work with you or you want to work with me yet, we haven't even made that formal decision. But here's your first assignment anyway. He goes, what? I said, shut up. He said, nobody has ever talked to me that way before. I said, well, they should. And I guarantee you, if we start working together, and, I can say it in a way that it was fine. It wasn't nasty or anything. I said, look, if we work together in a couple weeks, you're going to thank me for shutting you up right now because you don't understand the law yet. You will. That the more you say this story to the world, the more you're doomed to repeat the experience in your own life. Is that what you want? No. That's why I called you. I don't want to repeat it. Good. So shut up. Don't tell your wife. Don't tell your PGA buddies. Don't tell your caddy. Don't tell your barber. Don't tell your checkout counter girl at the supermarket. Don't tell anybody this story anymore. We're not interested. You're not going to help with that, fix that stuff? I said, no. Why do you want to fix stuff that's already not working for you? There's another one of those conscious slapping questions. Because people in the world have been taught, oh, if X isn't working for you, go fix it. Find a guru or find something that'll help you fix that and improve it. And here I am saying, why do you want to spend your time, money, and energy on stuff that's already not working? What do you have to fix? That thing is already not working for you. This lack of confidence, this ability to not follow through on things, what do you want to fix it? Why do you want to hang out there? That's when I show them the circle thing. And I say, look where you're hanging out. You're hanging out in circle 1. But circle 2 is over here. Do you really want to hang out in circle 1 trying to fix that junk? And then they look at me and go, no. Don't you want to be over here in circle 2? Yeah. Okay, then let's go there. Why can't we just go there? Oh, I didn't know we could. That's because the world has shown you the way to get to what I'm calling circle 2 is through circle 1. That's probably the biggest mistake I see human beings making. Is they think they have to get through the junk in circle 1 to get to what they want in circle 2. But once I show them this graphically, the circles on paper, or I have them do it and they see it, then it becomes very clear to them that spending time in circle 1 is really not the way to get into circle 2. It's just not. Does that make sense to you?
No, absolutely. It makes complete sense. It's so crystal clear. I just absolutely love that you gave us the visual to use because it really just makes us go, oh, yeah, that's ridiculous. It actually, it's almost funny. I mean, that's the only way I think that it's funny. It's like, well, oh, that's hilarious. Why would I even be doing that? So I'd love if you can talk to us a little bit more about the laws, and sort of give us one of them maybe and show us the power we have to alter our experience at any moment. I think that would be, just a really cool thing for us to be able to experience with you.
Okay. So, yes, I've used the word laws a few times, so let's get on the same playing field. Here's what I mean by a law. And folks, please write this down. A law is something that's true for everyone, everywhere, at all times. Everyone, everywhere, at all times. That's what makes it a law. So you can see from that there's no gray area. There's no yeah, but. There's no sometimes. There's no maybe. There's no nothing. It's black and white, which is why I like talking about them. So a law is something that's true for everyone, everywhere, at all times. Now, there's a pre-law to the 7 laws that I teach, And that pre-law is the more honest you are with yourself, the quicker you get what you want. The more honest you are with yourself, the quicker you get what you want. Now, what does that mean? That means what you're willing to see, you can change. What you're not willing to see, you cannot change. That's not my opinion. See, the beauty of these laws is that opinion is completely removed from the equation. Here are two examples. The law of planting. You can plant an apple seed, and you can pray all you want, and you can chant all you want, and you can do whatever you want in the hopes that a watermelon is going to show up, and it's not going to happen. Why? Is that my opinion? No. Is that my theory? No. It's a law. If you plant an apple seed, you have to get an apple. I have nothing to do with it. And then there's gravity that I mentioned before. So if you and I are up in an airplane and we're 15,000 feet over the ground and we're parachuting and it's your turn and the door opens and you walk over there and you go, Dave, I don't believe in gravity, never have, never will. I'm just going to look at you and say, okay. And you step out, what's going to happen?
I'm going down.
You are going down. So what I tell people all the time is your belief is not required for this stuff to work, and your opinion of it is completely irrelevant. When I say that to people, I get such a reaction. Say, oh, are you kidding me? You telling me my belief is not a factor here? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you, because I'm talking about laws. They don't care what you think. Gravity doesn't care what you or I think. It doesn't care what you or I believe. It doesn't care what our opinion is. Gravity is a law. All laws produce outcomes. That's all they do. And they're completely neutral. They don't care who you are. They don't care what your skill level is. They don't care where you live. They don't care your age, your gender, your personality type, all that stuff. That's why I don't need to hear somebody circle one story for 45 minutes, because the laws have nothing to do with that in terms of what they want from now on. The laws have produced that story for them also, but they didn't know that. The laws didn't start working just because you learned them right now. They've been governing everything you do long before you spoke to Dave Breslow. But now you're conscious of them. So this first pre-law, the more honest you are with yourself, the quicker you get what you want. It's so true. It's a law because it's true for everybody and everyone everywhere at all times. And a lot of people have difficulty with that right off the bat. And what I try to say to people is, look, if you're honest about something, if you're not good at something, just say so. Put it out in the sun. It cannot hurt you anymore. The reason it hurts you is because you hold on to it and you cover it, you huddle with it, and you protect it. That's why it hurts you. Put it out in the sun. It can't hurt you anymore. If you just say, look, I'm not good at this, great. Now we can move on and jump into circle two. As long as you're holding on to this, it'll never change. And I do this with live coaching clients. They will say something to me and I'll throw it back at them. They'll go, oh, no, it's not that. Oh, yeah, it is. You just told me that. Oh, no, it's not that. And then I get to go back to this pre-law and I say, you remember that pre-law we spoke about in session one? Oh, yeah. Well, now we have a moment for you to work with that. Okay? Are you willing to be honest about this right now or not? Because I guarantee you, if you're not, you just made your journey that much more difficult. And you lost your right to bring this up next time we speak. You can't keep coming up with the same issue when you weren't willing to be honest about it the first time. That's what you do to life coaches and other people who are going to continue to look for more strategies to give you. I won't. What I will say to you is, look, you weren't willing to be honest about this 2 weeks ago. What would you like me to do? Give you some more theories? Give you some more strategies to deal with this thing that you're not willing to be honest about? That's not going to help you. I'm telling you right now, you've got to be willing to be honest about this thing that we're talking about. And the second you are is the second you soar. And it happens every time. The moment somebody's honest about something, I even ask people in our first conversation, are you willing to admit that what you've been doing is not working? Before you called me? Yeah, that's why I'm calling you. Good. Because their answer to that question tells me that they're willing to be honest with themselves. Sometimes if they'll go, well, no, it was working. It was okay. It was doing a little bit. And then you won't let go of that a little bit. I know that person is probably not going to be very honest when it comes to more important things, which is okay. It's not a judgment. It's just that this is a law. You can't mess with it. You can't change it. That's a pre-law. So there's this first law that I mentioned for a moment. It's the law of awake and asleep, because most people have no idea how asleep they are as they go throughout their lives. That's the definition of being asleep, is you don't know you're asleep. So I've had mothers call me and say, "What'd you do to my kid?" And I'll say, "Why?" "Well, he's cleaning his room." These are 15, 16-year-olds. "He's cleaning his room, and when I pull up in the driveway from the grocery store, he comes out and he helps me carry the bags in. He's never done that before. I've tried to get him to do it 1,000,000 times." I said, "I know. He's not doing it when you ask him to because you gave him a strategy. And strategy, as we all know, disappeared within a few days. He didn't own it. In our very first conversation, he understands the law of awake and asleep. He has a check-in exercise. I can give it to the folks on the line here. The check-in is like the question from before with the fear. It's a very simple question. Am I awake or asleep right now? Because when we're asleep, we do things out of rote habit. We think, feel, say, and do the same thing out of habit. But when you check in, the moment you check in, you're automatically awake. You have to be. And in that moment, you have a window in your mind to make a new choice. So instead of me giving that kid a strategy for that choice, I could have said, "Hey, next time your mom says clean your room, this is your strategy for this week. Clean your room, and I'll talk to you next week." Okay? That's what is normally done, right? But I didn't give the kid any strategy. I gave him this law. And so he knew that when his mom asked him to clean his room, he checked in because he knows that's a time when he falls back asleep and just says, "Yeah, whatever, Mom," and goes and plays with his video games. And, that's him doing things out of habit. So he checks in while his mom's talking, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm asleep right now. I have a moment. I can make a new choice. You know what? I choose to listen to my mom now. I choose to look her in the eye and actually choose to do what she's asking me." He literally makes that choice on his own, and his mom is freaking out. And the reason he can do that is because now he owns it. I'm hoping you and the people on the line can see this difference. The reason he's doing it is because he came up with it, not me, and he owns this choice. Not doing it because his coach asked him to do it as a strategy. It's a very subtle thing, but I'm telling everybody it's a huge difference in terms of how your life changes. You can do something because Dr. Phil asked you to do it, or you can do something because you chose to do it on your own. It's the difference between the outside-in approach, which is what most do, or the inside-out approach, which is what I'm talking about. Because once you do it from the inside first, this kid inside first came to this choice. Now he owns it because it's his, not mine. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Actually, this brings me to my next question because I love everything you're sharing. So what I'd love is if you could share just a couple of success stories from people, that have worked with you, because I just think it's so powerful. And I think it's so crystal clear exactly what you just said. He came up with it on his own. It wasn't because someone suggested it to him or told it to him. So can you share a couple more stories with us? I know you've seen some amazing turnarounds, just so that we can really get a feel for what's possible here.
Yeah, that's one of the gratifying things to me is to get emails from people telling me things that happen. Here are the things that tend to happen to people. From the athletic world, what happens is, I'm thinking of this particular golfer I was talking about before. He was an older golfer. He was 50, playing against 20-year-olds on what they call the minor league tours to try to get himself back into the big tour. So what happened was he was missing cuts for a long time. And in the golf world, they play on Thursday and Friday. And if you make the cut, you play Saturday and Sunday, and you get paid. If you don't make the cut on Friday, you don't get paid anything. So golf is kind of harsh that way. So this guy was making no money for 6 years. And once we started working together after about 3 sessions, he's now finishing in the top 10 against 20-year-olds. He's 50. He's playing 23, 24-year-olds who are hungry to make it on the big tour, the PGA Tour. And he's 50, and he's now finishing in the top 10. And then 2 weeks later, he's finishing in the top 2, top 3, and he actually tied for first in a tournament as this thing progressed. Because what happens is you start becoming so much more aware of what's possible for you, and you start to think more clearly, and you start to make new choices in areas where you've been struggling and trying to figure out, how do I make better choices? What are the strategies I need to make better choices? And since I don't give him any strategies, he's just like that kid I was describing. He's making these new choices on his own from the inside out. So people in sports are performing at a much higher level more consistently. People in the corporate world are learning how to communicate better because they're more clear. They're learning how to be in meetings and communicate in meetings. They're learning how to be better speakers when they have to stand in front of a group of people. They're learning how to handle adversity better because they're different. It's not that I had to have sessions with them about how to handle stress and pressure. This is the beauty of this format for me, is that people are experiencing changes at these different levels without me actually having a session talking about the specific topic of adversity or stress management or presentations and all that. It's happening because they are different. And I know that can be difficult for people to wrap their minds around. It's like, really? This one thing is causing all these changes to take place? I know it sounds like Dr. Brown's whatever ails you, like I'm that guy, but I'm really not. It's a testament to being human, in my opinion, that when your mind, body, and emotions are in sync, everything you do better. And if you're not sure of that, just think about those times in your life when you just woke up one day and you just felt really good. And everything in your day was better, right? And you don't know why.
Yeah.
You just felt really good. And it's always a better day. You handled things better. You handled adversity when it came up very smoothly. You're communicating more easily. You were walking around with a smile on your face. People were reacting around you in a very positive and nice way, loving and compassionate. It was just a good day. Why? In my opinion, it's because your mind, body, and emotions were in sync. You may not know how they got there, but they were. It's no different for an athlete, what they call being in the zone, that magical place when everything is going so beautifully and so smoothly, you feel like you're not doing anything. That's what the zone feels like. There's no reason people in life can't have that experience. Because when you think about it, when the mind, body, and emotions are in sync, they're working together, just like the elite parts of a high-performance engine. They're working together beautifully. One part isn't working harder than another part. One part isn't lazy, forcing another part to do more than it should. Your mind, body, and emotions are congruent. And that's what all these exercises are designed to do for people. Yoga, Tai Chi, karate, meditation. They're all designed to help your mind, body, and emotions get to that place in sync. And believe it or not, the laws I've been talking about are the laws by which your mind, body, and emotions produce outcomes. So the moment you learn the first law, this law of awake and asleep, guess what? Your mind, body, and emotions are in sync. That's why this kid could come up with a new choice that worked for him. That's why everybody that does this is blown away. Day one, doing that exercise for 3 days. That's why it's called Wired to Win, 7 Laws, 21 Days, transform the way you live, work, and play. The 21 days is, for each law you learn, you leave me and go in your life for 3 days. And then you see that this law is real. You apply it consciously, and you start making new choices on your own. I'm no longer part of the equation. Then you come back and you own it. That's the beauty of this. That's why I don't dump everything on everybody on day one and say, here's all 9 audios. Go ahead and listen to them when you can. No. It's designed that law number 1, take your 3 days, go see how asleep you are, go check in with the question and realize how asleep you really are in your life. You'll be astounded. And then when you check in, now you have a moment to make new choices, and you start making them. And then people go, well, what choice should I make? I can't answer that. Now you're looking for a strategy. How do I know where you're going to do this? Are you going to be in the grocery store? Are you going to be driving your car and somebody cuts you off? Are you going to be at work? Are you going to be at home talking to your spouse? Do you have kids? Are you going to be talking to them? I don't know where you're going to be. I can't tell you what to choose. That's the beauty of this. Don't you already know that given the opportunity, you are going to make a choice that's better for you? You don't have to worry about that. You're never going to make a choice that makes you feel worse. You won't do that. So when you check in and you say, hey, am I awake or asleep right now? And your mind will tell you the truth. Don't worry about it. It'll go, dude, you're like so asleep right now. It's not funny. But the moment you do that, you're awake. You have to be awake to have that internal dialogue. And then at that moment you go, okay, all right, I have a moment here to make a new choice in this situation. you know what? Right now, I choose to stand up, look my mom in the eye, and actually have a conversation with her instead of falling asleep and doing the, yeah, whatever, mom, like I usually do. That's the choice the kid makes, or whatever, whoever you are. You make a new choice in that scenario where many times these people have been taking these workshops for years to try to figure out, how can I be different in this scenario? And here, all they do is do this silly little check-in question. I swear to you, the emails I get back from people that are just astounded, number one, at how asleep they really are, because they couldn't believe it. Man, I didn't know I was walking through my life this asleep. Unbelievable. And now they're awake. And the juice of life comes when you're awake, by the way. And when they get to this moment, they're now making new choices. I had a woman the other day, she's in my acting class, actually. She heard me talking about this, and she wanted to sign up for it. I'm now coaching her live. And she's a person who does things by habit all the time. She called me yesterday, and she said, hey, I got invited to a picnic, and my natural reaction would be to say, no, I'm really tired because I work late and I'm up all night and blah, 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 all her usual sleep stuff. So she goes, when the person asked me, I checked in, and I realized I was asleep because I was about to go do my usual no answer. And then she said, I had a moment to choose something different, and I chose to go. And I had the most marvelous time, because one of her things is she's trying to meet more people, because she always says no to social invitations. And this time she said yes. And she said, you know what, for 5 years, I've been trying to figure out how I can be more positive and more open when people ask me to do things, how I can say yes. And I said, did we talk about that? She said, no. It was the simplicity of the exercise that caused me to make a new choice. You gave me no strategy whatsoever to make a new choice in that scenario, because I didn't even know what scenario she would be in. And she said, I went to the party and I had the best time. I met new people, and I went home and I just looked in the mirror and I started to cry because I was so happy that I made that choice. And it was so simple, because I tell everybody it's really simple. You're a lot closer to what you want than you think.
Yeah, that's why I get so excited about what you're sharing here. I love being able to help people take control of their life. And when it's simple, I mean, that's just absolutely thrilling. So, thank you for all of that. And there's so much more to learn from you. I mean, there's the rest of the laws, and I love that you shared some with us. That's amazing. So I asked you to create a special offer for everyone who's listening. So go ahead, click on the special offer button that's on this webpage, and we will take you right there. David, take it away and let us know what we'll find there.
Well, what I did was put my entire coaching program in audio format. People have been asking me for a couple of years to do that, and I hesitated because I didn't know if it would come out the same, because I wouldn't be there to answer questions or anything. But I did it, and when I sent it out to many different kinds of people, and it worked. So you're basically hearing the audio as if I'm talking to you like I am right now. So there are 9 audios, and they're full length. Nobody's getting cheated on time. They're full-length audios, anywhere from, I think, about 40 minutes to an hour and 10. And they go from, the first 7 audios are Law 1 through Law 7. Audio number 8 is talking to you about creating new rituals based on everything you've learned, how to create your rituals every day, starting in the morning, going in the afternoon, and going in the evening, doing things that further strengthen you. And then the last audio are 12 cool tools, 12 more tools that you can use to foster the laws and, kickstart them into action. And so 9 audios, you're getting 9 study guides. You get a PDF with each one that highlights all the information in the audio so that you can follow along. You can also burn the audios onto a CD and take them with you then in the car and listen while you're driving. So it's 9 audios, 9 study guides, 5 bonus gifts that'll be on the page there for you on day 1, and a 30-day guarantee, of course. So with the audios, like I mentioned before, they are spaced 3 days apart. The minute you purchase, you get day 1, all the free gifts at the same time. You get the day 1 audio, and then you go work that law number 1, the law of awakened sleep, for 3 days, and you look in your inbox and you'll see a notice that day 2 is ready. You get a link. You'll click on that link, and it'll take you back to the page where the audio sits. Then you can listen to day 2 audio, which is a new law. Then you take 3 more days. So the whole thing is 21 days. That's why it's designed that way. And each time you go back to the page where the audio sits, all the previous audios that you had are there. So you can listen to them again and again and again if you want to.
Very cool. So amazing. And I love how you have it split up in that way, as you said, so it's not just like, here's everything all at once. I really love that you've done it that way. It makes it very, very powerful. So what are some of the biggest benefits that people could expect to start experiencing literally, right away once they start even just using that awake asleep? What are some of the things that will happen right away?
Right away, your awareness level will jump up, tenfold. Has to. Your awareness level will rise dramatically. Number 2, you will be far more clear than you were. Number 3, you start to make new choices. Number 4, you start to do things differently. So you're already doing those 4 things almost immediately. You're starting to think, feel, and do things differently. Where before you might have been struggling, trying to figure out what to do and how to do it. It's not a requirement anymore. It's not necessary. Because you are different, you'll be more aware of yourself. You will make new choices. You'll be far more clear, which actually helps you communicate more clearly as this process goes on. I don't talk about communication in the program, but people will start to communicate more clearly because they are more clear. And you will demand from other people that same kind of clarity. When they speak to you, you will help them actually be more clear because people tend to speak in code. I noticed in life. They don't really say what they really mean to say. I'm really hypersensitive to that as a result of being involved in this for so many years. I'm very hypersensitive to when people say something and I just boil it down into 2 sentences and I'll go, did you mean this and this? And they go, yeah. I'll go, well, why didn't you say that? I did. No, you just went on for 15 minutes on this whole thing of smoke and mirrors when all you really meant to say was this and this. Oh. Academics don't like me very much because I talk to them and I boil all of their 9 paragraphs down into 2 sentences because, they paid good money to be able to talk like that. And, they get really messy and they talk about all this stuff. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Did you just say that you wanted to do A and then B? Yeah. Okay. Why didn't you just say that? That's how simple I am. Sometimes it drives people crazy. It's just funny to me how in life, we've been taught not to be clear about what we really want in relationships. Hey, I really like that, or I really like you. We're all leaving this earth at some point. And I think one of the worst things we can do, I'm getting off into a little thing here, but one of the worst things we can do is not express ourselves honestly to somebody. And if they're not here anymore, we walk around with that, and it gets toxic. So I think one of the best things anybody can do in life is to express a truth to somebody while they're still here. If there's somebody you need to tell, I really like you, or I really enjoy being around you, I really love this about you, whatever it is, say it. Because we don't know when we're leaving. And you know how people joke with each other and they kid with each other, especially there's a lot of guys that aren't comfortable expressing emotion that way. I'm suggesting now, do it. Do it anyway. Use the fear question. What's the opportunity I'm really excited about here? Well, the opportunity is I'm excited about expressing myself, getting that energy out from me and into the world. And I'm also excited about making somebody smile because you're going to make somebody feel good when you compliment them that way and tell them what you like about them. And it's not about the response. It's not about whether they say, I love you back, or whether they say, yeah, I really like you as well. They don't have to say that. It's not about the response. It's about you clearing yourself, clearing that energy, and getting it up and out into the world because it's good energy. It's great energy. And if that person happens to, for some reason, not be here tomorrow, they've left this planet, you're stuck with that remorse. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. I've learned that over the years. I did that with my father before he passed away about 15 years ago. And it's the one thing I could always say, if he died tomorrow, I would never regret that I held things back about how I felt about him. Other things, yes, but not that. Not that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I love everything you're saying. I love how simple everything is that you're saying so that we feel like, oh, yes, I can just start using this right away, which is fantastic. And like you said, it's not that you suggest it. It's not a tip and a strategy. We actually become different. And I just think that's fantastic. So everyone, again, if you haven't yet, just click on the special offer button on this page to see for yourself what an amazing package this is. You'll be glad you did. And David, you have been absolutely fantastic. I feel like you're so giving with everything. You're so willing to share everything. And I really appreciate that because there's so much from this call that we can instantly use to start being different. And I think that's just such an exciting opportunity you gave us. And I can't thank you enough for being here and doing that. I'd love to know if you have any final words that you want to share with us to send us off with.
Yeah, a final tool, if I may, that listeners can apply immediately. It's on the audio, and it's what I share with all my private clients as well. This is a new attitude to come into anything you do throughout your day, anything you do. Your only reason for being there should be this. Write this down, put it on a 3x5 card, take it with you wherever you go. And the words are this. I have an opportunity to express all my talents fully and freely while overcoming my barriers with ease and awareness. I'll say it again real quick. My reason for being here is it's an opportunity to express all my talents fully and freely, all my talents fully and freely while overcoming my barriers with ease and awareness. Now, if you just do the two simple check-in questions we spoke about, that will already help you overcome barriers with ease and awareness. Because the second you check in with what am I excited about right now, with ease and awareness, you're overcoming the fear. And now you're allowing your talents to come out fully and freely. That's what we all want in life. We want to feel free, and we want to fully and freely express ourselves anywhere. So when you look at this on paper, most people, no, actually everybody, when I ask them, what's the feeling you get when you look at this on paper? Is it light or heavy? Everybody says light. It's a lighter feeling. So imagine what it would be like to walk into any scenario, whether it's in your corporate job, in your organization, at home, talking to a spouse, talking to your children, talking to a friend, whatever it might be. Imagine if you entered the scenario with this as your only reason for being there. Your only reason is to express your talents fully and freely and overcome your barriers, because they're going to show up. We're all human. We have them. Overcome your barriers with ease and awareness. Imagine what will happen to you if you enter a situation with that as your main reason for being there. I do this with athletes because they're all worried about performance and results and outcomes all the time. I said, no, go to the golf course. This is your reason for playing golf today, to express your talents fully and freely while overcoming the barriers that are going to pop up with ease and awareness. That's your only reason for being there. If you're there for any other reason than that, you're probably going to mess up somewhere. So I'd like to leave people with that little ditty, put on 3x5 card, watch what happens to you when you go under that umbrella.
I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic. And thank you. Everybody can go off with that strongly there and on their little 3x5 card. So definitely everyone do that. David, thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone listening, thank you so much. You are all absolutely extraordinary. And I just love being able to be here and share this time with you. And until the next time, everyone, keep manifesting.
Mm-hmm.